there are My Little Ponies and lots of side cheek in this video. Worth your time. Back in, I don't know, what was that, a couple months ago when we had that completely fake gas shortage here on the East Coast, there was no shortage of fuel in the United States of America. There was a shortage of responsible media outlets letting you know that. But somebody hacked into a pipeline, and of course all the news outlets said that there was a gas crisis, and so people filled up the lines and nobody could get any fuel anywhere. So my buyers, not wanting to leave the comfort of their home and spend their own fuel, were sending me messages saying, hey, can you go shoot a video tour of this house? We may want to put in an offer. To which I said, are you going to send in a horse? Like, how the hell do you think I'm going to get around? If you can't get fuel, I can't get fuel. Plus, I have a diesel truck. I turned Bob on and I'm down 5 gallons. He's worth it, though. It was a mess, but it got me thinking, if we had a hurricane, which we have hurricanes pretty regularly, and they shut down the gas pumps, or some national crisis, or some completely manufactured media crisis, a horse would be really convenient. I've watched a lot of Disney movies, and I find it inspiring, these women with 14-inch waistbands who always escape danger on a friendly horse in a ball gown, and by the end of the movie, they have a mortgage-free waterfront castle. I'm totally into that. The conversation got me on this horse bender, and since I'm in the middle of a midlife crisis where I'm learning to ride a motorcycle, why not also learn to ride a horse? Why not have both? I don't think you can have those in apartment complexes, but you can certainly have drugs and late night noise and abandoned vehicles and all kinds of other things in apartments. So like, why not also Pegasus and an Indian motorcycle? I had seen for quite a while this woman in the county next to mine. Her name is Alicia, and she has a business called Hell's Horses, which sounds aggressive, but also totally right up my alley, right? It's called Hell's Horses because it's in Half Hell, North Carolina, which is a teeny tiny, and I do mean teeny tiny town in Brunswick County. But she takes her horses out into the intercoastal and they go swimming, and it just looked joyful. And frankly, after the past couple weeks in this real estate market, I needed a little bit of joy and to be out in the ocean on a majestic beast. I sent her a note, and she said that they have a summer camp for kids, which I was like, gosh, sex trophy is like, not really my thing. But the horse in the water, my thing. So I went out this morning, and I am shorter than most of the preteens there, but they accepted me as one of their own, which was great. I'll say this about horseback riding. A horse out in a pasture, a horse at a distance, it doesn't seem like it's very involved. It's like a giant field puppy, and you just sit on it, and you just kind of gallop. But on a horse is like it's like getting on a motorcycle. It's a whole different thing. Though, having gone through this experience now, what I have learned is that a spiteful wild animal should not ever be on the back of a willful wild animal. It was just, there was too much energy between the two of us. Getting on a horse is pretty intimidating because that horse, and it's a mare. Let me explain to you quickly the differences of horses from someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, but I've been on a couple trail rides. A stallion is just like being around a 25-year-old man. It's feral. It does whatever it wants. You have to catch it. You have to roll the newspaper up and like beat it into submission. It's going to go try to mate with everything. I would not even bother trying to ride a stallion. And a gelding, they've cut his nuts off, and that is just so much easier that's like a man that's been divorced a couple times. So it's very receptive to the little scraps of affection you have to offer, and it will do whatever you want. And it's just wonderful. A gelding is just like, just touch me, pet me. You want to go on a ride? I want to go on a ride, huh? Like, that's a gelding. Lovely. And then you get a mare, and a mare is like me, like doesn't want to look at you, doesn't want to talk to you, just she doesn't want you on her back. She has other things to do. So a mare, you have to ask and explain to her why it's in her benefit to go on a ride and get her permission and talk her into the idea. Well, these were mares, so I was already a little freaked out. And they were riding these preteens, little. I'm shorter than them. Younger. They were younger by a long shot. On the back of these big mares without a saddle. Pro tip. Riding a horse without a saddle, it looks badass because it's just you and Pegasus. You are one. There's no fancy anything. However, if given the option, I would like to tell you to please opt for the saddle, because when you are on an animal that big without a saddle, the spine, the enormous spine of that animal is right in line with your baby cannon, and it is not comfortable. I took a bunch of photos of everybody, and then they asked me if I wanted to get on, which was like the whole point of me going. And so I went out there, and since it's the Olympics, wanting to carry the reputation of this great nation on my shoulders, I represented the USA, took home the aluminum medal. We attempted several performances for the judges on shore, and one of those was something to the extent of like equine water gymnastics, where I got up on said horse and then was going to do a very dramatic, like, stick the landing. And instead of sticking the landing, my artful dismount was more called ass over tea kettle. As I'm getting up on this horse, I'm like, I'm doing it. Shit. When you are out there on a horse in the intercoastal, there's a certain moment where you can feel their hooves are no longer touching the sandy bottom, and it's just you and the horse and the waves, and you really feel like you're flying. It's magical. It's magical until she decides that she wants to run for shore, and you have to choke her out to get her not to do that, to get back in the water. But that's not the point. The point is that while I was out there with these kids, and again, I'm not like really a people person, but like kids is even harder for me. They started to tell me a little bit about themselves and why they came to horse camp, because it was sort of obvious just speaking to them that they weren't all from North Carolina. Has a lot of accents and they all had different, so I knew they weren't from the same area. And I was amazed that these 12, 13, 11, 10-year-olds would look me dead in the eye, and they would tell me all about themselves, and they have no idea who I am. They didn't know I had a YouTube channel. They didn't know I was on TV. They just were an open book in the most beautiful way. And their stories were not what I expected. Now, I'll tell you, those horses came into Alicia's life because she had just sort of collected them over the years, and they were all needed some degree of rescuing. They were not in a good spot. They couldn't be cared for. They were going to be sold. And so all those horses needed an Alicia to sort of save them and give them a great life. And she started getting those horses to give her daughter Piper a family barn, mostly so that if anyone ever asked Piper if she was raised in a barn, she could just say yes. But there was no intention to grow it into a business. But once people found out about the barn and the horses, Piper's friends came, and then friends of friends came, and then it turned into this summer camp, and that she charges not nearly enough money for. So the horses were in need of some rescuing, and as it turns out, so were some of the riders. And I won't go into all the details, but I learned, just standing there in the mud with my camera, trying to get photos in between me going out and completely embarrassing myself on this horse. Some of them had been through death of a parent and divorce that had completely separated the families. and some other things that are more intense than I will describe here. But out on the water, they were so happy. I just got chills. And so was I. And I asked one of them, I said, why did you want to come to horse camp? Because she told me that her family had separated and that everything was awful. And I thought, what made you think of the horse camp? And she said, well, out there on the water, I can tell the horse anything, and she listens. And I just about burst out crying. And they all had a similar story like that was their therapy. And I thought, adults, there's a pill and a program for everything wrong with us, right? Adults think that we should never have a bad day, that there's no such thing as a bad season in life. And if you go through more than 2 bad days, you should medicate it or sign up for something or go try to learn how to ride a motorcycle. But we anesthetize immediately and have completely forgotten how to self-soothe by going and playing outside. And these kids got it. And they had problems that the stories that they told me were things that I would expect to come out of an adult's mouth. And we so often think of kids as these rubber balls that just they don't observe, they don't notice, they're not going to remember. And boy, do they observe, notice, and remember. I mean, vivid details. It was intense, and it wasn't what I was expecting. I just wanted to learn how to ride the horse. I didn't think I was going to come there to be inspired by people who are a fraction of my age and so much braver than I am, both on the animal and seemingly in life. And that was the tale through many of them, is that they figured out that once they got on that horse and they started riding or got out there in the water, they just forgot about all their problems. And that was the reason that they never missed camp. Those kids don't miss camp because being on that horse means you're on the horse and you're focused and you're not focused on everything wrong. And I have to agree, because when I was out there with that stubborn mare and we're riding on those waves, I totally forgot about all the chaos I have going on in real estate right now. I wasn't thinking about contracts. I wasn't thinking about the long list of people I needed to call back. I was just thinking about having fun, and that it felt amazing, and how beautiful this horse is, and how awful I am at riding her, and that she probably knows it and is going to tell all the other horses. But it just felt free, and it was wonderful. And so she's not really able to expand this program, but I thought that Alicia was so incredible for offering it, and I thought the kids were so amazing for being so courageous to share their story. They do a lot of arts and crafts things, but the one that I thought was really special was that as Alicia started to learn about these children and everything that they were going through, she changed some of the activities. And one of them is when they start to pick up that one of the kids is going through something rough. They will put that kid in the center of the circle, and then everybody circles around them and closes in on them. And they will say and sing or yell all the things that they love about that person onto them. And then they'll switch and they'll put somebody else in the circle. Can adults start taking notes here? Can you imagine how many problems we would avoid? Even in the workplace, if we did that once in a while. They were incredible. It was incredible. So in the fall, I'll be going back for ladies' night to learn how to actually ride stubborn Pegasus. But it may not be my thing, but I'm going to try it anyway. And if I can learn how to fall off a horse, maybe I can learn how to fall off a motorcycle. That may not even be comparable, but I'm going to tell myself it is, because I really liked the sound of the throttle. Anyway, I thought that was a pretty inspiring story about those kids. They figured out that it doesn't take a pill or necessarily a program or spending money or anesthetizing with drugs or alcohol. That the general rule of feeling better, about being braver, and about being there for other people is to go play outside and be nice to your friends. Bye, weirdos.